Well, so speaking of then, if Monica is one of your sort of freestyle taps more than the boy and girl tap, we have to talk about freestyle in Chicago. Armando Gomez Jr., myself, Monica, legend has it that you were the first personality to play pre/freestyle in Chicago. To the best of your knowledge, is that true?
A lot of people have said that. I shouldn't say that I was the first though, because Ralphie Rosario, when he was with the Hot Mix 5, he played what I call freestyle with a P. A lot of the stuff that he played preceded freestyle music, and I really liked what he was doing. I had a mobile DJ service that I started in, I think, 1982.
Wait, you used to spin?
Yeah, I used to spin.
No way, I didn't know that.
No, I was the fourth DJ in a 4-DJ group.
What was your name?
You don't want to.
Come on, Harv, what was it?
The first DJ group I was in, I was Sandi, the master of mixology.
What?
The first DJ group I was in, I was Sandi, the master of mixology.
What?
Sarnie, S-A-R-N-I-E, because once upon a time there was a girl named Sunny at the Boys and Girls Club, and there was me, named Harv. Somebody called me, somebody called her, and we both responded. And then whoever did the calling said, "Oh, you must be Sarnie," and that was his big joke.
Okay.
And then Sunny kept calling me Sarnie. So when we started the mobile DJ thing, I was a fourth DJ in a 4-DJ group. I had no nickname, no Jammin' or Kickin' or whatever. So what do they call you? Oh, she calls me Sarnie. So I became Sarnie, the master of mixology. That was throughout high school. And then in '82, I started my own mobile unit because I was friends with Tony Boom Boom Badea's cousin. This was before he was Boom Boom. And I had my mobile DJ team. I heard him spin. He was like 14 years old. He was so much better than I was. So I decided to invite him to start our own DJ group. He was the fourth DJ in his group. I was the fourth DJ in my group. Turned him into Mr. Magic. Turned the mobile unit into Chicago's Magic Mixers. And then he got the Boom Boom moniker by a promoter once because his wife noticed that Tony was heavier than I was. I'll put it that way. And then it became a Boom Boom thing. It was his style of mixing because he was so quick with the turntables. But he was Tony. He was big at the time. And so I stopped mixing. Tony was doing all the mixing. But I would still, when we did weddings or cotillions, I would play the rock and roll music or the Spanish music. I would play everything that wasn't dance.
Okay. And
then Tony would do all the disco/freestyle stuff. But Tony had stuff in his crates back then. Like Who's Your Boyfriend? I forgot the name of the group. Like Naomi's Please Don't Go. The Shannon stuff.
Sure.
And I gravitated towards the stuff that Tony was playing. And I said, man, this is good stuff. So I would pull it right out of his record crate and it became a new favorite song. When I wound up at WCYC in December of '85, I was doing a lot of office work. I was doing a lot of alternative programming because at the time, Kenny Jason was in charge of what they called the Young Sounds, and I was the outsider. For some reason, and if you go to wakeupdancing.com and you listen to this interview with Kenny, he'll try to straighten out the story, but the music would magically get locked up when I came in on Saturdays with my team. So we just created all kinds of stuff, and alternative tracks here, a slow jam thing there, and when I was doing 15-minute or a half-hour show, I would take Tony's stuff with me, the stuff that I liked, the Shannons and the Naobis and stuff. That's what I liked. Eventually, Kenny named me program director in '87, and I was already doing my own show. By then, he started liking me for what I was doing, by the way. And when House was big at the time, but there were 8-minute versions of songs that just were so repetitive that when I became program director, I said, no, we can't do this. So my show was basically a freestyle show or a freestyle show. Then when I became program director, I started putting it in regular rotation on all the shows. And people gravitated towards it. Not many people were playing it. I know Tony was because I got it out of his record crate. Ralphie had progressed because House was so big that Hot Mix 5 was doing all house music and not really any freestyle music. We're on 28th and Ridgeway playing a lot of the freestyle that had come out at the time, and the connection between the Latino audience and the Latino artists. I mean, your song was bilingual, and there were songs like that. Like Baby Don't Go in '87 was a bilingual song that we played a lot, and I wound up getting credit for exposing the artist and the music. And
In '85, was it freestyle? Right.
86 is usually the year that everybody connects with the birth of freestyle,
Okay.
because, you know, 86 is when TK was formed and Cover Girls were formed. So 86 seems to be the birth of freestyle. But if you go back a couple of years, you'll find your Exposés and your Company Bs and groups like that, that they were not labeled as freestyle. You know, it was like Miami Dance or something like that. And then when the New York acts, you know, got involved, then it got labeled as hip hop at first.
Yeah.
And then eventually it became freestyle. And it's weird because on the north side of Chicago, they were calling it heartthrob, which
Yeah,
I never called
I've heard
it.
heartthrob,
And
sure.
on the south side, I'm calling it freestyle because
It's like
that's what I
Sox
called
versus
it.
Cubs or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and it's weird. If you find north siders from back then, they'll call it heartthrob and not know how it got the name freestyle. And you go to the south side, you'll CYC country, and they all call it freestyle, saying it was a heartthrob. They have no idea. So I was given a lot of credit for being the first to play it, the first to program it, and then I would talk to the promoters, Tony Batoya at the time, and Charlie Martinez, and Pinky from All Star Productions, and then we would talk about bringing these people in.
Okay.
And of course, coming in meant Harv wants to interview, so then I'm just interviewing all these people, and nobody else was interviewing them, but nobody knew who they were.
You were playing a much larger role than I realized.
So I would interview them, I would play the music, and then at CYC, and we're going to use our half hour talking about this stuff, but at CYC, what I thought was important was to get to know the artist. So I made certain that everybody announced the songs, and then they would back announce the songs. And you couldn't just play something and not tell anybody who it was.
Sure.
These days, you can listen to 2 hours on a B96 and not know
Never know.
who's what.
Yeah.
But we did it that way, and then the artists were so good at coming through or calling or whatever that CYC became known for the music and the interviews and the artists. And no matter how big the artist got, they would still tell you that they got their first shot at WCYC. So it's kind of interesting how it blew up. And I think in a lot of cases it was the artist who kind of gave me the credibility, because they would always give us the credit. And then the listener response to what we were doing. If the listeners had not responded to what we were doing, it wouldn't have worked.
And back then it was just a phone. You
It was a
couldn't
phone.
tweet it, you couldn't update your status.
There was no tweets, no Facebook, no
Or they would
MySpace.
physically come to the station.
Well, they would call, because we would have people in studio, and so we'd say, call us, make a dedication, make a request, or whatever. And even if the call didn't wind up on the air, the artist would talk to people off the air and
That's
whatever.
great.
So, it was kind of I wasn't setting out to do anything. To me, it was just important to get to know the people, as opposed to just the songs. It was just a strategy I had that I didn't even do it on purpose. It was just, and then at that point, and my programming strategy became programming by the artist. So whatever Sandi came out with is getting played. If the listeners like it, great. If they don't like it, then we won't play it as much.
Sure.
So it wasn't payola, and it wasn't whatever's in the top 10.
It was really listener requests.
Once the listeners decided something was going to click, then it was also going to be up to them to decide it wasn't going to click. And there were times, like when George came out with "I Want You Back," the listeners were like, "What's this?" Because he redid a Jackson song.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, the listeners didn't respond as much as they could. So then you ended up not playing it as much. But I think I think the artists ended up appreciating that. The fact that I would program by the artist or by the record label. Whoever was good to us, we're good to them. And then there were songs that they would bring to us that may not have been the greatest of songs, but we would still put it on the air. And then we would let the listeners decide by request or whatever if it was going to work.
Can you remember the first act you brought in?
Oh boy. Well, the act that stands out the most
Fair enough.
to me is Nelson Cruz, Fast Forward, strictly because once I brought him in, we became friends, we became personal friends. Personal friends to the point that he didn't want to stay in a hotel, he would want to stay at the house.
Oh, that's great.
And so he'd say, "Charlie, money or whatever, we'll stay at the house." Then Nelson went back to New York, and at this point Nelson was producing Shannon, he was producing Brenda K. Starr, he was huge. And so what he did was, he went to them all over there and said, "Listen, if ever you go to Chicago, you have to do Harv Bowman's radio show. You better not go through Chicago and not do Harv's show." And then if he was in studio, that was how we did our first Brenda Kay interview. It wasn't even an interview. He was in studio and he said, let's wake her up. Something weird like that, if I remember right. So he's on the phone calling whoever's in his Rolodex or whatever it was at the time. And Nelson giving word about me in New York, what we were doing here in Chicago, was huge because he was credible.
Sure.
And it made me credible. And then I guess the good news is once they met me, like in your story, you know, we became friends. It wasn't just an artist and a radio guy,
Right.
we were friends. You know, heck, our first interview was in '91.
Yeah.
It's 2012, and we're still sitting across from each other. So I guess that would be the biggest one. The interview that probably created the most buzz